before they get it. How about that? In a moment, former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura back with us. We're going to talk about some of his new projects and much more next on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast to Coast. George Norrie back with you. Jesse Ventura, the former governor of Minnesota, back with us. He's also former U.S. Navy frogman and professional wrestler, a movie actor, visiting fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, and he has been the host and executive producer of True TV's Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. He also has been on RT America, which is Russian-owned, but something happened, and he'll tell us about that. There, Jesse, welcome back, my friend. How are you, sir?
Good to be back, George. By the way, you forgot I was also a mayor of the sixth largest city of Minnesota.
That's right. And I lived in Minneapolis back in 78 to 79, but that was a little before you became the governor. But what a great state.
I was off wrestling during those years.
The body, right?
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
I did that for 15 years.
You've got a new project coming up. We'll talk about that in a minute. But tell us, what happened to RTV? You were very vocal about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and what'd they do? Take you off?
Well, no, they didn't just take me. Actually, we were a victim of the United States and that group's sanctions against Russia.
Aha. Explain.
What happened was RT, first they were taking us off the air in all these countries, which I felt was foolish because we had people on there speaking out against the invasion. So why would they want us off the air? Wouldn't they want that to go back into Russia?
You would think so.
You'd think so, but it didn't work out that way. We basically went out of business because they couldn't. They were pulled from the air in a bunch of countries, and they couldn't use the banks.
Jeez. Did you ever have a chance in your career to meet Vladimir Putin, Jesse?
Yes, I did.
What'd you think of him when you first met him?
Well, I met him before I signed on with RT America. They flew me and my wife all the way to Moscow to the 10th anniversary of RT America, and Putin was the keynote speaker. I also met Gorbachev that night also. You could tell he was an old man now with a walker, but you could tell by the birthmark on his head.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That everybody all seen decades ago. And I don't know, the Putin that I met that night, I'm trying to figure out who this Putin is now.
Yeah, I would think the same thing. I didn't think he'd do this.
That night, he made the point. He walked all the way over. He walked all the way over to my table, to me, held out his hand. I shook it, of course, and he said, "Thank you, Governor." I said, "You're welcome, Mr. President." He said, "I want to assure you, you have complete artistic control of your show. No one will ever interfere." And I said, "I appreciate that. Thank you very much." And for 4 years that I was on, he was a man of his word. Nobody ever interfered with anything I said.
Would you have expected him to go into Ukraine the way he has?
No.
Me either.
I don't know what this. I can't figure it out about what the end game is, what his ultimate end game is, what he sought to accomplish, other than alienating himself from the rest of the world pretty well.
And these threats of nukes. I mean, it's weird.
I don't know if he's lost his mind or what. I can only tell you that he seems far different than the guy I met 4 to 5 years ago.
Absolutely. If you were president, how would you handle this situation with Putin right now?
Oh gosh, you can't put me on the spot like that. I can't tell you how I'd handle it. One part of me says drive the damn Russians out of there, where another part, my anti-war part of me says, all war is bad, and is this another one just for the profiteers again? Because I'm a great believer in Major General Smedley Butler, and he wrote a tremendous book called "War is a Racket." And every time there's a war, I realize it's a racket. They are money-making rackets.
Yep.
That's all wars are. And they put up fronts to the people for other reasons to why there's the fighting. You notice this war started right when Afghanistan ended, basically.
It just picked right up. Exactly.
Picked right up. Well, that keeps feeding the military-industrial complex. They haven't lost a step. In fact, they're now better off than they were. Ask somebody in the military-industrial complex if they're better off today than they were 2 years ago.
Good point. I would have bet money, by the way, that after you were the Minnesota governor, you would have run for the presidency. How come you didn't?
Well, I didn't have there was talk of that a lot, but, initially I made a commitment to the state of Minnesota to serve as their governor for 4 years. And one of the big things that irritates me, and I don't call myself a politician, I call myself a statesman. Because a statesman goes and serves and then goes back to the private sector. He or she doesn't make it a career, where the politician does. They make it a career, getting elected one to another to another. I had great momentum right at Bush-Gore. I could have probably beat either one of them.
Yep, I think you could have.
I made a commitment to the state of Minnesota to be their governor. Now I'm going to run off and run for president when I haven't even been their governor for a year?
Good point. Are you still in Mexico?
I refuse. My own integrity told me, no, you complete the job as governor. Then if you want to decide to do something else, do it then. And that's me, because I'm not like these other politicians. I'm a statesman. And I complete the job I ran for. That was one of my biggest criticisms of my opponent, Norm Coleman, in the governor's race. He had just won re-election for mayor a year earlier. And I called him on it in a debate. I said, all these things you're saying, you were saying a year ago when you wanted to be mayor. Now you're all repeating them, and mayor ain't good enough. Now you want to be governor. Why don't you finish the job of being mayor before you decide to be governor?
Good point. Good point indeed.
And I'm a believer in that. Finish the job you ran for before you seek another. So that hurt me because, naturally I lost momentum. And then, of course, the MSNBC debacle came along. You familiar with that?
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. My boss who hired me told me in a limo one day, he said, we were driving from San Diego, the Super Bowl, back to L.A., and he said that he got calls from the he wouldn't say who it was, but the upper echelon in D.C. wanting to know why MSNBC was giving me a national forum.
Was that Phil Griffin who hired you?
No, it was Eric Sorensen.
Sorensen, okay.
Sorensen hired me, and subsequently got fired because of me, I think.
Well, you tell the truth.
The thing was, though, what went on, if you don't know, Phil Donahue was on at that time. They brought him back from daytime. He was the highest-rated show at night. Phil and I were both opposed to the invasion of Iraq. They wouldn't allow me on the air, and they pulled Phil.
We still wrote a promo of you talking about the Iraq War, and it's brilliant. I still get emails about that.
I was opposed to it. You want to talk about what's the difference, kind of in a way, between Iraq and Ukraine?
There really isn't.
There isn't.
There really isn't.
We went into Iraq based upon lies, based upon the whole thing was bullshit. Iraq didn't attack us allegedly on 9/11.
Nope.
Why would we attack Iraq? That's where I went right from the start. So what are we going into Iraq for? They had nothing to do allegedly with 9/11, if you believe the official story.
And Saddam Hussein, who was no Boy Scout, of course, but he hated
the Iraqi people, not us.
And he hated Al-Qaeda.
You know who even fell for it? Randy Rhodes.
Yeah.
I was watching her the other day on TV. I couldn't believe it. She come across with, Iraq wanted us to come in. That's given us the Dick Cheney line. We'll be greeted as liberators. Really? Roadside bombs are greeted as liberators? And then she even brought up how they pulled down Saddam's statue. That was already proven to be a CIA photo op. That wasn't real. That wasn't the Iraqi people doing it. It was us doing a photo op to make everyone believe at home that Iraq was welcoming us like liberators. When you compare, I'm anti-war, I'm anti-all. I lost my MSNBC job because of the invasion of Iraq, and I lost my job at Russian Television America now because of their invasion of Ukraine. Every time somebody invades somebody, I lose my job.
But you were right, Jesse. You were right on all fronts. All fronts.
I should be crying instead of laughing.
And you and I are two Navy veterans, by the way, so thank you for your service.
Oh, no problem on that. The service, you know what I tell people today, George? I have fun with them. I tell people today when they come up and thank me for my service and all that, I said, don't do that. I didn't do it to be a patriotic. I said, I didn't do it for that at all. I said, I did it for the money.
Yeah, right.
I said, I was making $62 every 2 weeks.
That's right, big bucks.
And I said, I did it for the money. I was in there for the big dough.
I love it.
$124 a month when I first got in the Navy.
You still spending?
In fact, that's what I was making when I went through Bud's training.
That's right.
You're a Navy guy, you know how brutal that is.
You don't get rich, that's for sure. You still spending time in Mexico?
What's that now?
You still spending time in Mexico?
Well, I haven't been there the last 2 years because of the pandemic.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were asked to leave 2 years ago a little early by the Mexican government. They were very nice about it, but they said we're going to get hit, and we will have enough trouble taking care of our own people without worried about you people. So we would really like all the Americans to go home.
Jesse, stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We've only got you for this hour. From the heartland of America.
Subsequently got fired because of me, I think. First got in the Navy.
You still spending? Headquartered in San Francisco, and our own Jesse Ventura is part of this. Jesse, tell me about this.
Well, after leaving, I first got in the Navy.
You still spending?
In fact, that's what I was making when I went through Bud's training.
That's right.
You're a Navy guy, you know how brutal that is.
You don't get rich, that's for sure. You still spending time in Mexico?
What's that now?
You still spending time in Mexico?
Well, I haven't been there the last 2 years because of the pandemic.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were asked to leave 2 years ago a little early by the Mexican government. They were very nice about it, but they said we're going to get hit, and we will have enough trouble taking care of our own people without worried about you people. So we would really like all the Americans to go home.
Jesse, stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We've only got you for this hour. We're going to come back and talk about Substack, which you're part of this new American online platform. We'll talk about that, and we'll take phone calls with some of our listeners in just a moment. The lines are open. We'll be back in a moment with Jesse Ventura. We're going to take your calls with him the remaining half hour as well. He's part of Substack, which is the new American online platform. He'll tell you all about that as well and how you can monitor the things that Jesse talks about and writes about as well. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie back with you. Substack is an American online platform that provides and allows writers to send digital newsletters directly to subscribers. It was founded in 2017, headquartered in San Francisco, and our own Jesse Ventura is part of this. Jesse, tell me about this.
Well, after leaving, let me back up a second, though. You talked a great deal about the gun issue at the top of the program and that. And I have a new position on the Second Amendment. I want to get this out.
Okay.
I support the Second Amendment, but here's where I'm going to differ now. I think you should be able to own whatever you want as long as it's on your own private property. But taking any weapon off private property should require that weapon, the person to be licensed and registered to carry that weapon.
Sure, I agree with that. And I also think they need to raise...
That way you can still defend your homes, and you got it all the home. If you want to sit in your backyard and look like Rambo, that's fine. You just can't carry that weapon off your own private property unless you're licensed. Now, moving on to Substack. Yeah, when RT went down, I had to find something else to do. So Substack has come along and excited me to no end because this is the first time I'll have no one, virtually no one, overseeing anything I do.
That's absolutely right. Lots of journalists are participating in this, and it's growing. It's growing by leaps and bounds, isn't it?
Well, it eliminates a publisher. You don't need one because you, in essence, publish yourself on there. And like I said, you can write, you can do audio, video, all of that stuff is open, and that's where I'll be doing it. And the show is going to be called Die First, Then Quit.
Perfect. I signed up for your newsletter today. I went to your site.
That's an old saying. If you go through basic underwater demolition SEAL training, you'll see it on the wall. Die first, then quit. And I feel that applies to me because I'm going to keep talking and I'm going to keep calling out hypocrisy till the day I die. Then I'll quit.
Well, let's hope that's many, many years from now, Jesse.
So anyway, that's where that comes from. Anybody that wants Jesse the Body Ventura, that's the place you're going to get him now. Is Substack exclusively. I'm going to be on there, and it's a chance for me to work with my son too, which always makes it fun.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of these projects too now, hasn't he? Tyrell, right?
Well, he had a longer career at Russian television than I did. I actually joined. My son had been there for already, I think, 3 years watching the Hawks.
That's unbelievable.
He did over 1,000 shows for them.
Prior to the Ukrainian invasion, did the RT folks basically give you free reign?
Yeah. I had the most freedom. I laughed about it. I said, Russian television gave Jesse Ventura his free speech back when our media took it from me.
Jeez.
And the Russians gave it back. They, like I said, Putin personally told me, you have artistic control. And for my 4 years there, I was never interfered with. I said anything I wanted to say.
About a month ago, I had the director Oliver Stone on, who did a documentary on Putin. A couple of years ago, he went and interviewed him and said that he might have been sick.
Too, that Oliver did.
But why can't we sit down with Putin as a country and say, Vlad,
I don't know.
What do you want?
I thought about 5 years ago when I met him, I really thought he wanted a relationship with the United States. I really felt that from him. And it was almost like we weren't going to allow it.
There's something strange going on here.
There is. There's some, as there always is when these wars are going on. You got the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain somewhere, George.
That's true, Jess. Let's take some calls. They're lining up for you. We'll go to Eric in Indiana to get us started. Hi, Eric. Welcome.
Hello, George. Hey, I'm proud to be able to talk to Jesse Ventura.
Yes, you have.
I used to watch him when he was wrestling, and I want to thank you, sir, for your time in the military and stuff, and George, too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, but that's years and years ago, and like I said, I did it only for the money.
Yeah. Well, here's a question for you.
I was getting paid $62 every 2 weeks, man. Who wouldn't do it for that?
Right. So then, by all that being said, do you think that with all the crime in the world that we have here in this country, don't you think we are to bring the draft back?
Bring the draft back? No. Not unless you bring the draft back and make it fair, because the draft was never fair to begin with. If you had money, you went to college, you avoided the draft. If you were Donald Trump, you had big money, you got out of the draft. And the rich kids went to college and didn't have to go. Poor kids went to war. I know because I grew up in the South Minneapolis neighborhood. We were not rich, and I saw many of my friends get drafted, and I watched the suburban kids all run off to college.
That's right.
So, I should even categorize it better. The suburban white kids run off to college. And so if you're going to bring back a draft, there should be no college deferments for it. Why did going to college get you out of it? Don't we want the best and the brightest?
You would think so. Didn't they even have marriage deferments, Jesse?
They wanted the dummies.
Did they have marriage deferments too then?
If you had kids.
Yeah, they did. Let's go easy.
If you had kids. If you were married and had children, they had those type of deferments. But the draft was completely unfair. The draft was BS, top to bottom, and I don't want that brought back in the way it was before. If it's brought back in that manner, I want nothing to do. In fact, I protested the Stop the Draft movement when I got out of the military to get rid of it.
Follow Jesse's work on Substack. We have the link at coasttocoastam.com. It's right there for you. Let's go to Don, east of the Rockies in Kent, Ohio. Hey, Don, welcome.
Brother George and Jesse, thank you guys so much for your service. You're great Americans. Governor Jesse, I want to know the connection between Putin and Steven Seagal. They're both martial arts specialists. I'm on a website called Super Soldiers Talk, and it has here Putin enlists Steven Seagal to fight Anunnaki in Syria. Do you know anything about this secret war?
Well, I don't know about that, but I know Steven Seagal has a relationship with Putin because of his martial arts background. Mm-hmm. Putin's kind of a mark for him. And Putin gave Seagal the ability, he can travel in and out of Russia on his own free will.
Wow, and I bet that still stands.
ID that Stephen can come and go as he pleases, out of Moscow and Russia. I don't know if it's still that way. I have no idea what the situation is now. But I know that's pre the invasion. I know that Stephen had a relationship with Putin through the martial arts stuff. Putin was kind of a mark for him.
We should be using people who have relations with these government leaders to help solve these things, like Dennis Rodman, the basketball player, had with Kim Jong-un out of North Korea.
Well, maybe, we need to talk to somebody about it.
Let's go to Cornelius in Alexandria.
Get to these people, yeah.
Absolutely. Get it done. Hello, Cornelius. Welcome to the show.
Hello, George and Jesse, the body, the mind, Ventura. My dad loved you, Jesse, and he loved both of y'all's service. He was the Air Force Korean War vet. He was tough as nails, Jesse, but that COVID-19 got him, and it came from, of course, Communist China, who he fought against in the Korean War. But I was a military police officer, and I trained in biowarfare as an MP at Anniston, Alabama, Fort McClellan. So do you think that – I've got two questions for you. Do you think that the Communist Chinese did this to try to destroy America and stuff? And I do disagree with you on the guns. Our Second Amendment means our guns can be anywhere and everywhere. If not, there's a person in Charleston, South Carolina. A woman took out a guy that was trying to kill a bunch of people in Charleston, South Carolina. So we need guns anywhere and everywhere, and I'm against Howard Bloom on that. We need guns.
Well, you and I are going to take opposite sides on the gun issue because, like I said, I'm all for everybody can protect their homes. That's what they were designed to. The Second Amendment was designed for, to protect you at home. But carrying this stuff out in the streets is bullshit.
I'm just
and it's gotten to the point now. Come on. What do 18-year-olds need with assault weapons?
And they should raise that age limit as well.
Well, yes and no. See, there's a double standard. Let me explain this one for a moment. I get irritated over the double standard we have in our country when it comes to ages. We need to pick out an age for adulthood and stick with one age. Because here's the pet peeve I got. I went in the Navy at 18 years old.
And you knew what you were doing.
1 year being trained as a Navy SEAL. I deployed overseas and did a 9-month tour at Southeast Asia and returned home. I was only 20 years old. I couldn't drink a beer, and I couldn't even vote for who sent me to Southeast Asia because I was still considered a child. Now, do we send children to war?
Nope.
Yeah, obviously we do. So wouldn't that be a form of child abuse? Wasn't I subjected to child abuse because I wasn't granted to be an adult at 18? I couldn't drink, I couldn't vote, but I certainly could go die for my country and kill for my country.
And in World War II, some 16-year-olds snuck in to go into the military.
Well, they lied to do it.
They did.
Lied to do it, though. Let's be honest there.
That's true.
But the point being is that we need to pick an age. It's just like this whole thing, you can't see a LeBron James today. You can't see a Kevin Garnett because kids can't go directly into the NBA. I laughed at when Jermaine O'Neal said, you mean somebody can go die in Iraq, but they can't play basketball?
Good point. Jeff, Durango, Colorado. Hey, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Hey, George. Hey, Jesse. You're the best, man. I've loved you forever. I've loved you since the first Predator, when I noticed these two guys in the slicks both ended up being governors.
Well, let's remember, though, I was first. Arnold followed me.
Arnold, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to say my dad was B-25s in World War II, and he flew late 29s in Korea, ended up with DARPA. My brother was 335th Assault Helicopter Company over there in country, ended up with the company. I was sent from von Brev's school under DARPA over to, and I went in when I was 17 to end up with Patton's ARPS over there. And but nonetheless, I long ago I knew Peter Berg, and when I saw, I just recently got sent a copy. It's been out for a while. That Navy flick. It was sci-fi and Navy at the same time. Best Navy flick I've ever seen. Battleship, and Peter Berg's dad was a naval historian. And I mean, that movie just rocked. And I was wondering if you had been any part of that, because it was the best Navy and Army movie at the same time. There was a Colonel Gadsden, there, a double amputee who played Lieutenant Colonel amputee in the movie, Greg D. Gadsden, and he had played the entire Army in all military history. Man, did he kill that role. It was great. Everybody in it was great. And it was such a cool flick and such a cool Navy flick.
I haven't even seen it.
No. Do you know Tom Cruise at all, Jesse?
I was on a flight with him one time on MGM Grand Airlines from New York to L.A.
Nice guy?
I don't know. The only thing I noticed about Tom Cruise, boy, is he small.
Yeah, he is a short guy.
He's just a short guy.
But his wallet is
That was the thing I really noticed about him. He is not tall at all.
No more interest for you to run for a political office?
For me, at this point in my life, I don't think so. I mean, I dabbled, with the Green Party about this last election, but they were fractured. They're in disarray. They're a mess. And they had some nominee who they stuck with rather than getting me, and I would have brought him national attention. I would have got in the debates.
Absolutely.
But the point is, they dropped the ball with me because I offered myself up to the Green Party to take on in the last election, and it was horrifying, the experience, because they were fractured. They had two big elements. See, the thing that happens is these third parties get infiltrated.
They do. There's no question about it.
By operatives from the Democrats and Republicans, just like the Reform Party got infiltrated by Pat Buchanan.
All right, Jess, you keep in touch with us, and we've got the link. All right, my friend.
Thank you for having me on. And again, anybody, it's on Substack, and they can find me on Die First, Then Quit.
And we've got the link right there for Jesse Ventura. In a moment, we are going to be talking about the upcoming 75th anniversary of Roswell, New Mexico. So